So welcome to the NASA ERC's CS First presentation. CS First is a great tool for supporting your students through coding if you are not someone who's familiar with computer science. It really does scaffold and give them the tools that they need to be successful, with you still facilitating and helping, but without having to carry the burden of all of that teaching of the coding exactly like how it should be done. Okay, so it's a free curriculum. It walks you through how to create programs in Scratch. For each of them, there's a little introductory video that sort of gives the students an idea of what they're going to be doing and gives them a purpose. And then there's another video that shows them like step by step what they can do. You can make a class in it. It has a learning management system, and you can assign projects. They vary in length. And it integrates really nicely with Google Classroom because it is something that's done by Google if that's something that your district uses. It doesn't have to be used by a teacher. It doesn't have to be used in a formal setting. You can just go in and do as many projects as you want. So it's something that students can pace themselves through on their own if they're learning in a less formal environment than a school. So it's adaptable for both of those. Okay. I'm Emily. Nice to meet everyone. I know I see a few familiar faces, but some new people. We've got a good little group with us here today. I'm excited. I'm part of the NASA Education Resource Center that's based out of the Katherine Johnson Independent Verification and Validation Facility in Fairmont. We're a partnership between NASA and Fairmont State University, and that allows us to do some really cool stuff. Our team normally is going all over the state doing teacher trainings and workshops and robotics tournaments and trainings and things like that. But now we've pivoted temporarily to delivering some content about tools that would help you with distance learning with your students. And so this is one of those programs. We've had such a great response to our webinars that it's something we'll definitely continue to do once we're back in the swing of things and into our normal routine. The webinars aren't going to go away because we've realized that we can reach our state much more easily by doing these for some of those people that are far away from our office and less able to come in when we do workshops. Okay. Here's our agenda for the day. I'm going to show you a little bit of what Scratch is in case you're unfamiliar. I'm going to give you an overview of CS First. We're going to look at the teacher side of it, and you're going to have a chance to experience it as a student, and then pick a module and code that module. Okay. My hope is that by the end of this, you'll have enough familiarity with CS First to decide whether it's going to be a good fit and something that'll be workable for you. And if you decide that it is something you want to do, you'll start thinking about a plan for implementation, whether it's a summer camp or something that you would do during the school year. Okay, so let's take a look at Scratch. If you are not familiar with Scratch, it is a cool little programming language that's designed for kids. It's block-based, so you just drag and drop in blocks to control the different elements of the program. And it really is surprisingly, like, it's got a lot of complexity to it. You can make some really interesting things. So every program starts out with the Scratch cat. When you start moving, or when you want it to do something, you have to start with one of these hat blocks that has this kind of curvy bit on it. These are the event blocks down here. If it doesn't start with this piece, your program's never going to run. It doesn't have a trigger that tells whatever's underneath to run. So I pulled in when the space key is pressed because I want the cat to move when the space key is pressed. And now I'm going to go up to motion and say, okay, I want the cat to move 10 steps when the space key is pressed. And now when I press space, the cat starts moving across the screen. Okay. It gets a lot more complicated than that, but basically that's what Scratch is. Once we go into CS First, they give you a lot of the program components and help you through with that process. So you do not need any computer science experience to use this effectively, either as a student or as a teacher. It's targeted towards grades 4 through 8, but there's a lot of flexibility there. I could see using it with a 3rd grade classroom, and I could see using it in a high school setting. A lot of the programs are, the structure's there, but the content is determined by the student. So it could scale up to be, something that's more sophisticated at the high school level. It is a browser-based thing. There is no download necessary. You can use it on a Chromebook or anything that connects to the internet. You could use it on a tablet. That's fine too. There are ready to teach lessons that you can decide the order to implement in, or you can use their guide. The only condition is that the teacher account has to be a Gmail account to set it up. So if you don't have a Gmail account, you would need to get one of those to set up CS First, but they're free and pretty easy to set up. I just know that one more login to try to remember the password for can be onerous at times. This is an overview of all of their lessons. You can see you can spend a whole lot of time on here. The larger projects are pretty cool, but the 1 hour projects are great too. If you just have like one of those weeks where you know you need to fill a day or two, this is a great opportunity to have one of those filler activities in there for one of those 1 hour projects. Okay, it has a cool thing that says get help with the curriculum finder. And so if I click, I have all these things linked. If I click on here, it'll ask me what I teach and sort of suggest some programs for me. Which is a really nice feature. If you're just getting started and you're not really sure what of those programs sounds like the best fit, this is something that could help you assist with that. I really hope I haven't lost my internet. It doesn't usually take this long to load. Let's hope that I'm still streaming. Okay, let's try going to it for another way and see if that'll work for us. No, now that kicked it in. Okay, we're back. We're not back. Okay, here's the chooser. So let's say you're teaching math and you just want a single activity, okay? I'm gonna say no, haven't taught any computer science, and we're gonna say I don't know for that. So it pops up a few of these basic things for you to choose from. The interactive presentation one is a good one. It's basically making a more exciting PowerPoint where your user can actually interact with things within it. And so it could be adapted to any subject where students are having to present. So let's just take a look at this one while we're in here. Okay, it tells you that it's going to take about 45 to 90 minutes. It's showing you how to go through what the steps are going to be. And so I'm going to go to the introduction. This is going to be a short video. I'm guessing you're not going to be able to hear my audio because I don't think I clicked that button when I started sharing this window, so I apologize. But the good thing is that the transcript is down here as well. So if you're like me and you don't want to sit through a 1.5-minute video when I could read this in, 20 seconds or something like that, that is an option for you. So this just kind of gives your students an overview of what they'll be doing and why they should be interested in doing it. It's that kind of like anticipatory set type of the part of the lesson. And then when you go into it, it's going to give you more in-depth instructions and it's going to show you what things will look like. Okay, so it walks you through the different parts of Scratch and how to use it. I love this because students can pause it as they get to a point where they're like, okay, this is the step I'm on and I need to do. Watch that step, pause it, flip over to the Scratch tab, do that step, come back to this video. So it really supports them and guides them one-on-one. This is something where you're going to want your students to have headphones for if you're doing this with a whole class. If we're doing it now, we're in all our own homes, it's not a big deal. But if you're doing this in a classroom, you're going to want your students to have headphones so that they're not all irritating each other with replaying the same video 85,000 times in your class. Once they do get the basic program put together, this choose add-on feature is really nice. It basically allows the students to individualize their projects a little bit, but still being supported. So they can decide whether they want to do any or all of these different add-ons, and each of them has the same kind of structure where it's got a video guiding them through what to do. Okay, so it isn't something where they're all going to end up with the same cookie cutter program at the end of it. They're going to have some choice and some flexibility in that. how are we doing? Do we have questions so far? Is there anything you want me to go back to? Did I go too fast over anything? Am I pacing this okay? Let me know. This is a nice small group today, so I really want this to be driven by you guys, and let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. Open up the chat and pop something in there to let me know whether you're in a good spot or not. Okay. I want to show you the teacher side of it now, just to give you an idea for that. Okay, so you are welcome to join this class if you would like to play around with what this part of it looks at on the student side. All you would do is on that screen that I just showed where you can choose between teacher and student, just click on the student and then you can type in this code. Oh, it copied it for me. I'm going to put that code in the chat just so that it's there. I've assigned a couple of assignments to this class. So if you want to play around with what it feels like on the student side, this would be a really good way to do it. The best part for that is that you don't give me any personal information. We all know that protecting students' personal information on the internet is such a difficult thing to do. So Google's approach in CS First has been to not collect any student information. So when I go to people, what I see is a bunch of generated usernames and their passwords as well. Okay, so the passwords are automatically generated and you can look them up at any time really easily. The thing about the usernames though, is that you have to go in by hand and enter them, and they're only stored on the computer that you are on. They're stored as a cookie, so if you go in and you delete your cookies, you'll lose all of your student names. So this is something where you're going to want to have maybe a secondary list that has what their usernames are and what their actual names are. It's saved somewhere else on your computer. Or you're going to want to be really careful to only use the same computer all the time and not mess around with any of that data it's saving to your computer. So basically, as your students register, you should have them communicate to you what their usernames are, and then you can go in here and you just type in their name. And again, this is just for student privacy so that Google's not keeping their information. All Google has is their username and passwords that are automatically generated. Each of the students, then, you can see what it is that they're working on. Josh decided to do his dialogue in Spanish, which is a really cool option that's available. And so this is what the teacher is going to see. None of my other people here have started working on things. I just asked everyone in our office to go ahead and make an account so I could have some fake students in there. You can add co-teachers really easily to your class. So if you co-teach with someone, or if you have a TIS or someone who would like to support you in this, that's an option. If you're an informal educator and you're planning on doing some kind of a summer camp, you could have a couple people running it and deal with that really easily. Over here on the side, this is how to integrate it with Google Classroom if that's something you have access to. Good deal. Okay. So that's what the teacher side looks like. It's really easy to set up. You can have multiple classes in there. And then when you go down here to choose curriculum, it has this add to class button next to it. So you can just pick the one that you want to add in there. And these are all of those different lessons. Where am I at? What do I want to do next? I want to make sure I'm not missing some of the cool stuff. Oh yeah, we want to look at those lesson plans and things like that. Okay, so each of the units, each of the coding activities has different things with it. And let's look at an unusual discovery. I think we'll play around with that one today because that sounds like fun. So Once you go into one of the activities, it gives you a basic overview. It tells you what to expect for your students. It gives you some example programs that you can look at that are different ones that have been done based off of this framework. So you can see they all look really different for this one. For materials, this is where you're getting some of those extra things that you might want to do as a teacher. So they give you a lesson plan every time. Sometimes they have a get started guide. Shout out poster is something that you can print and have your students write on. You could do a digital version of it as well. They make stickers that you can print out, certificates of completion, those kind of things. And then this is allowing you to download all of the videos in case you're somewhere where you know your internet connection is not going to be as reliable. You could download the videos and have them available as a backup if that's something that would be useful for you. All of these are a little bit different, so don't expect exactly the same thing in materials. Some of them have more, some of them have less, but they do always at least give you a lesson plan. And it's pretty in-depth at the ones that I've looked at. Okay, yes, I am recording this webinar and we'll put it on our YouTube channel, so I'll make sure that it's available for you there. Absolutely. Okay, so this is telling you what to expect as a teacher. If you don't have this, if you're not as familiar with Google Docs, this is a really cool feature on the side. All Google Docs automatically generate an outline view. And so if you go over here and click on this little thing that looks like a bullet list in the gray area on the side, you can see what the outline of the whole document is, and it's just following whatever the formatting is of the document. So you can see it starts at overview, an unusual discovery, etc. So it gives you solution guides to the different add-ons that show you what the code should look like. So it's good to let students have some time and struggle a little bit because coding is frustrating. And when you're actually coding, you're not going to have a key to look at. So this shouldn't be something that you break out immediately if a student is struggling. They should sit with that for a minute. They should have that tenacity and that, okay, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try this and it didn't work, so I'm going to try this now, and talk with their peers about what they're doing too. But you do have this as something to fall back on if you're like, wow, I have no idea what that should look like. And so you can kind of go back through and say, okay, I understand what this is and why we're doing this. Okay, so that's a good option to know that that exists. So they're giving you that key to work on, but it shouldn't be something that you like print out and give to your students before they get started on anything. Okay, we talked about add-ons, we talked about examples and materials. They do have some really good support features where you can post questions. Scratch itself also has those as well, but these are more specific to these lessons. And so don't ever feel like you're on your own with this. Okay, we'll go back to other resources later. Let's go in there and let's look at something, okay? If you would prefer at this point to pick your own thing and just start working on it, go for it by all means. Like mute me for a little bit, just check back in over here. So by all means, pick a topic that you think is interesting and go for it. But I'm gonna do this one, an unusual discovery, and I'm just gonna kind of talk through my process of doing this. So we're gonna start an unusual discovery. I'm actually gonna stop my share and reshare so that I can turn sound on. All right, I hope this is gonna work. You're gonna have to let me know if you can hear this sound on this video. Okay, so someone let me know in the chat whether it's working or not.
Hi, my name is Dorea, and I am a proud Black woman who works at Google to create more diversity in tech. I'm also a dancer, actress, and the founder of an organization that helps kids cope with life's challenges through art. In this activity, you will use computer science to create a story about two characters that discover a surprising object. Welcome to an unusual discovery! You will program your characters to talk to each other. You'll also animate fun, silly, or spooky interactions between your characters and the unexpected object they find. Computer science uses code to make projects called programs. It's a subject you can study in school, a career, or something you can do just for fun. People use computer science to make music, create games, share memories, and find creative solutions to tough problems. To create your story, you will use computer science concepts like sequencing. Sequencing means to put things in a specific order. You will tell your story using the Scratch website. Scratch uses code blocks to give characters called sprites instructions. This activity has different starter projects you can choose from. Each project contains a different backdrop and an exciting object to animate. After watching this video, choose a starter project. This will open Scratch in a new tab. Choose two characters to discover the object in your story. Click Choose a Sprite and select your first character. Scroll through the library to find a sprite for your story and add it to your project. Then select another character.
Okay, let's get started with some of that before I forget all of the instructions. I'm going to pick Outer Space Adventure from down here. And we're going to get rolling with that. Feel free to do whatever you want. If you want to follow along with your own thing, go for it. If you want to just watch me do mine, that is totally a fine choice as well. I think there's some value in doing it for yourself, but at the same time, it's hard to do that and follow along with what I'm talking about, so I totally get it. Okay, so one of the great things that Scratch has is it has this remix button on all of its programs. And what remixing does is it says, okay, someone made this program, but you can take a copy of it and do whatever you want with it. So once you click remix, it copies everything that's in that program and then gives it to you. So you're not editing the original that's still on whoever created its side. You're editing your own copy of it. So this starter project from CS First just has some backdrops and a spaceship in it. But any of the programs on this site, you can click the remix button on and copy and start changing and working on. This can be really helpful once you get a little bit more familiar and comfortable with Scratch. You can create your own program that maybe has that cat moving around and has the basic stuff coded in. You can send that link to your students and have them remix it, and they can do different things with that same base program. So the remix feature is really fantastic, and that's what I'm going to click on now. I'm going to make my mouse big. So just give me a second to do that because it can be helpful to see. All right, we're huge, good. Okay, so what I have here, the spaceship is a sprite. Like she said in the video, a sprite is just anything you can associate code with. It has a background, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna find some characters. So to add some more sprites, we can click on this button here. If you hold your cursor over it, it will pop up as like a little thermometer. And you can choose a sprite from the library. You can draw your own sprite. You can click surprise to get a random sprite, or you can upload a sprite. So if you have an image that you want to use, you can import that using this feature. But for now, we're just going to choose a sprite. I think fantasy is where the like alien kind of things are too. Let's do Gobo. And I think we were supposed to choose two so they could talk to each other. Maybe it's a people I want now. Let's do Kieran. Okay. So I've got my characters on my screen. I've got the spaceship over here. And I'm going to go back over to CS First, whichever tab it was in, and read about what I'm supposed to, or listen to what I'm supposed to do next.
To flip a sprite so that the two characters are facing each other, click the Costumes tab, the Select tool, and the Flip Horizontal button. Click and drag the characters around the stage to move them.
Okay, that was really helpful. And that's what we're going to do on our outer space adventure. You can see Gobo and Kieran are not facing each other. So I'm going to click on Gobo. I'm going to go to the Costumes tab. Click here and make sure that the cursor is highlighted, because then I can flip horizontal. And I'm just going to go through all the costumes and do that. It's important that the cursor is selected, because if you're on like the paint bucket or something else, you don't have that flip horizontal button. I know that threw me off when I was first getting used to doing this. And I was like, oh no, I was in the middle of a webinar and I'm like, I don't know how to flip it. And someone told me, you need to get off the paint bucket and on the cursor. And that was super helpful. So definitely something to pay attention to. So now I've got my characters facing each other, and I can go back and learn what I'm supposed to do next.
Next, program one of your characters to talk using say blocks. To add code to a sprite, first select it. Click the Code tab. Then select the Looks menu. Click, hold, and drag a Save for 2 seconds block to add it to your project. To run this code block, click it. The sprite should say hello. Think about your two characters.
Okay. So let's head on back over here. I'm going from costumes to code. I apologize if this is boring, because you're watching her do it and then you're watching me do it. I hope that you're finding something to be useful in this. But we're gonna keep going with it. Okay, so Gobo down here, I'm gonna go to looks, and I'm gonna say hello. I click on it, Gobo says hello, okay? I'm a little bit puzzled at this point, because this code isn't something that's gonna run independently until we pull in an events block. So I'm assuming that that's the next step we're gonna do, but I'm just a little bit curious about that right now.
Characters and what they might say to each other. Maybe they're friends, or perhaps they just met. Maybe they found the object in your story by accident. Change the value in the say block to what your character will say to start your story. Run your code. In this example, the first character says, "Whoa, look at that!" Next, add an event to tell the computer when to run this code. Select the Events menu and drag out a When Flag Clicked block. This block runs the code when you click the flag at the top of the stage. Click the flag to test your code. Awesome. Now
Okay. So you're getting the idea. We're just kind of bouncing back and forth between what the video is telling us to do and what's going on over here. Just going to do that for now. Let's keep going though.
Someone can watch the beginning of your story by clicking the flag to start your program. This video showed you how to start a story with two characters that find an unusual object. To program your second character to respond to what your first character said, choose the Continue the Conversation video. Then select and watch another video to further your story. Curious what my characters discovered? Check it out. Two dolphins find a trombone and start dancing to my favorite song. Have fun with Hour of Code. It's time to get coding. Now it's your turn. Select and open a starter project. Add 2 character sprites. Add a say block to make one sprite talk. Add a When Flag Clicked block to start your story. Then, watch the videos below and complete the steps in your project to continue your story.
All right. So down here, this one has a ton of add-ons. I know the first couple that we looked at only had about 4, but that's super cool. So we can continue the conversation and have our characters talking back and forth to each other. We can make an object change color. There's a lot of different things that we can do. And you can do multiple ones of these, as many as you would like. So this is a great one to get your class started with, in my opinion, if you have a fixed amount of time, because those students who are struggling might only complete the basic program. But those students who are flying through, maybe have some other experience with code or just having a really good day, can do as many add-ons as they would like to within the span of that class period. So this is something that has basically built-in filler activities where students are working at their own pace. Okay, how are we doing? Do you want to see more of that? Do you want to see some other resources that are available to support you? Let me know in the chat or unmute yourselves what would be helpful for you at this point. Practicing wait time. Okay, let's go for it. Like I said, there's a lot of options for support. Some other resources to kind of get you started. There's a great webinar that a CS First has done that kind of explains a little bit about the why computer science is important kind of thing. They do have physical kits that they will send you, which is kind of a cool option that would get you started. I think they've scaled back on those a bit, but they are something that you can still request if you're doing one of those if you're doing one of these larger projects that take a longer amount of time. They won't do it for these 1 hour things, but if you're committing to doing a big project, then they'll send you some stuff. The WVU Extension Office is having a whole summer camp that's based around CS First. It like immediately filled up and is in wait list right now, but that's something that if you're registering on their wait list, you're showing them that you have that as a student you're interested, and so that's got some more information there. The Wayne County Extension also does CS First activities. The ERC is talking about maybe doing a scratch camp this summer. We usually do in-person summer camps, and we're still hoping that that's something that'll be possible, but my suspicion is that we're going to be going to a virtual experience. So that's definitely something that would be something to talk about. If you want to reach out to me and let me know what you're kind of thinking about, what you think your students would find most useful for a summer camp experience. So if you've looked at CS First and you've said, oh, I don't like this at all, this isn't for me, but I still want some kind of a coding curriculum, these are 3 other good options. The creative computing curriculum has a real emphasis on computational thinking, which is sort of one of those, one of the reasons that we want to get kids coding early is because it allows them to kind of view coding as something that allows them to solve problems. It's a tool that they have in their toolbox, and they know that they can rely on this when they encounter something that they need to do. It's a little bit more linear than CS First, which is just kind of like grab a module here or there, do whatever you like. But it walks you through and basically, okay, you do this first, you do this first, you do this first. So if you want something that's more of a general, like we start basic and then we get more complicated, this would be a good option for you. Looking at these other ones on here, we're not affiliated with any of these programs whatsoever. I don't want to make it sound like I'm endorsing anything. These are just some cool things I found that I thought would be helpful. This one's a 6th grade curriculum from the New York Department of Education. They have lesson plans online. If you're looking for a younger demographic, Boot Up is a good one. They have a Scratch Junior as well. I'll be doing a Scratch Junior webinar this afternoon, which is hopefully going to work. I had a major snag this morning that I think I'm going to be able to get around, but we'll see. So similarly, they've got short videos that talk you through it and lesson plans. And And so this would be something that's designed for that sort of older elementary kind of thing, if you're looking for something that's more more age focused on a younger age. Other resources. So if you just don't like Scratch, if you don't think it's a good fit for your students, Snap is basically the same thing as Scratch, but it has more computer science functionality. So it would be better if you think that Scratch is too young for your audience. It's essentially the same thing though. It looks similar. It's just got a little bit less of the cartooniness to it. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Let's see. Awesome. Once I get done talking through this, I'll go back into CS First and we'll do some starter stuff. Frankly, I think most of the CS First things are good beginner projects. So you can see it's very similar in terms of it's got these same palettes. It's got the drag and drop kind of thing. Their colors are even the same. It is an outgrowth of Scratch, but it does have a little bit more grown up of a feel, and it's got some things down here that Scratch doesn't have. So that's something that you might want to consider if you are worried your students are not going to be buying in to Scratch because it's for babies. Snap would be a good one. Code.org has a ton of resources, and they do a lot of educator trainings, especially over the summer. They'll often have cohorts that they train pretty extensively. And their resources range from Hour of Code, where it's just like a one-off thing you can do, to an AP computer science course for high school. Another program that I haven't had a chance to play around with yet is Alice. And Alice has a kind of 3D rendered engine, so it's not going to look flat the way that Scratch and Snap are. So you can see in the background some of these things. It has a little bit more advanced of graphics, but it's the same kind of thing. It's block-based, so you just drag and drop the same way that you would do with Scratch or Snap. It is a program you have to download, though. It's not browser-based, so I know that's an impediment to a lot of school districts, but that's kind of another option that's out there. At this point, I'm going to post our survey in the chat. We ask that you fill out our, it's a short survey. It asks you basically where you're from and which training you attended, and then 5 short questions. They're the same questions that you would answer if you filled out one of our paper forms at a workshop. And I would love it if you would fill that out sometime when you have a minute. The upside for you is that you get emailed a certificate that says that you attended professional development with us. And that comes in a really pretty colorful format if you have a digital portfolio, and a black and white one in case you need to print it out to show that you attended this training. I'm going to continue showing off some Scratch resources because I want to make sure that we have this full hour for people who are interested in that. But if you have other things to do with your day, I absolutely want to respect your time. So you can head on your way if you've gotten what you needed to out of this and would like to have some time to think about how it's going to fit in your curriculum. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me with questions. I'll be sending a follow-up email later today, probably this afternoon, that has the link to this posted on our YouTube channel. So the video, it'll have the presentation and it'll have a link to the survey again if you don't get a chance to grab it in the chat. So if you're done, thank you so much for being a part of this today, and have a great rest of your day. If you're wanting to see a little bit more, I'll do a little bit more. Hey, if I can find which tab I'm supposed to be in. Let's just close some of these out. Not that one, too late. I am also happy to answer any questions. If you have any questions at that point, do not hesitate to let me know what I can do to help. Okay. So let's find some good basic stuff. So these subject-specific ones are pretty good. Dialogue is, you know how she was having us in the one that we did, the surprising thing, whatever it was, an unusual surprise. She was going to have us have the characters talk back and forth. This program just has the characters talk back and forth. So why don't we look at that one? Because that's a kind of a good basic thing. And it is one of those projects that highlights how coding is really about creativity. We sort of have the stereotype of like engineers and computer scientists not having any imagination or ability to think creatively, but that's really not the case. Like coding is a creative venture, and in order to have a good program, a good game, a good set of dialogue between characters talking, that's really something that's a creative task. So I'm going to look at that one. And let's get started. I don't think I want to watch this one. But she talks a lot about this cool stuff that you can do with programming. And then we go on to next to get started. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me repost that again. Try that. Okay. So this is the part where it's telling us what to do. So let's watch that for a minute.
In this video, you will select a setting and 2 characters for your story. This will help set up the story you want to tell. Then, you will program dialogue between the 2 characters to start telling your story. What your characters say is up to you. You can pause the video to add to your project, or you can watch the entire video, then complete the steps. To start, open the starter project. In Scratch, characters, objects, and animals are called sprites. Think about the story you want to tell. Select your first character and the Costumes tab. Who are the characters in your story? How do they know each other? After selecting the first character, click the second sprite and choose a second character. Next, add a backdrop to your story to set the scene.
Okay, I was busy answering a question in the chat. Someone asked if we click on add to class, do students have to log in to get to the website? If they log in with their generated username and password, then it'll be associated with your account and you as a teacher can see what they're working on. It'll give you a link to their project. They can also just access the site without logging on and do a project on their own and then send you the link to it. So if you want to use the learning management system, you would click add to class and then have students log in. If you want it to be something more informal, you can have it be more informal. So it is entirely up to you. Whatever you pick though, make sure you're communicating that to students, because if you want them logging in so that you can see their programs in the learning management system, then they need to log in to do that. Like Josh messed his up with his thing, and he ended up having it on his personal account with Scratch, not on the account that was generated with this one. So there is room for a little bit of error. Worst case scenario, the kid has to email you a link to their program. Like that's not terrible. Okay, so let's click on the starter project and see what's happening. Again, that starter project is something that we're going to remix. We're going to take what they have given us to get us started. And in this case, it's just 2 characters. And we're just going to click remix. I kind of like using this, even though you could pick any 2 characters, because now it looks the same as what she's doing on her screen. And so I'm, as a student who's starting this, more comfortable because I can see that it matches what she's doing. If you have students who are happy to run with computer programming, they can pick their own 2 characters and write their own dialogue. That's entirely up to you. And I think we're supposed to be picking a background now. So I'm going to go down here and just kind of hover over it. And I'm just going to pick a random background. Great. We're inside. We're in some sort of a weird classroom with a curtains in front of a blackboard. Great. What are we supposed to do next?
You have many options to choose from, like the beach, a castle, or even the moon. Choose a backdrop that works for your characters and the story you are telling. Now that you have characters and a setting, program your story through dialogue.
Rose, that is such a good point. I love that. Okay, so the question is, can you add your voice to a character and students answer back with theirs? Absolutely. Let me show you how to do that. So the sound menu, I don't usually do a lot of stuff with because sounds take a long time and they're kind of annoying to me. But they're a really cool thing that you can do with your characters. So let's say I'm going to be the rabbit today. If I go to sounds, I can do the same things that I do with the other menus where I can look for a sound that they have. I can record my own. I can pick a random sound, or I can upload a sound from my computer. So you can absolutely upload in an MP3 and violate all kinds of copyright laws if you so choose to do so and have that music be in your background. Right now I'm going to record something. And so I have to allow Scratch to use my microphone. I have to have a microphone. When I click record, I got to think of something for the rabbit to say. Write your name on the board. Now I save it. Okay, can I trim it? I don't know if I can trim it. Write your name on the board. Robot voice. Write your name on the board. Oh, that is horrible. Can I undo? Write your name on the board. Nope, I just did more robot voice. Here's where I undo. Write your name on the board. Okay, so robot voice does that. This is the undo button, which is important to know. Otherwise, you're just getting robot ear. This is now called recording 1. I'm going to call this rabbit teacher, just for fun. And so when I get started, I now have to put this into the code so it'll do something. So I'm going to say when the start button is clicked, so that's when the green flag is clicked, I'm going to play the sound rabbit teacher until done. So that means that nothing else will happen in the program until the rabbit says something. So let's do that. Write your name on the board. Okay, so now what I could do is I could save this program. If it ever says save now in Scratch, go ahead and click it, but it does automatically save for you throughout. So now that I have this in here, I could have students remix and then they would provide their own answer or do their own thing. And so maybe their response would be to record a new sound. Okay. Doesn't look like it recorded anything. Okay. All right. So then I would have, maybe I'll have when this sprite is clicked. So the rabbit automatically plays, but I don't want the kid to automatically play too. I want them to have to click. Okay, let's say that. And then we'll play sound recording 1 because I didn't rename it. That's what it's named. And then I will have a new sprite. And that's one I want to paint myself. Oh, I'm going to get fancy with this. We're going to do yellow chalk. Old school. And I definitely want that to be bigger. Maybe not that big. Okay, this little crosshair means that it's centered in the middle of the sprite. That's kind of a finer point that I really want to get into today. And then maybe I want to change it to, no, I want to change it to handwriting. Okay, So I've got it centered on here. I'm going to move it over here. And then I'm going to right click and say duplicate. And I'm just going to keep adding letters to my name. I'm totally off the rails right now. So if this is like feeling a little weird, I get it. But I'm having fun, and hopefully you're learning about some of the different things that Scratch has to offer. Costumes are a cool thing that allow you to have the same code associated with something, but you can just change how it looks. And so in this case, I'm making these different costumes so it'll look like I'm writing my name on the board, and I don't have to have a character for each letter and get them automatically lined up and all kinds of things. So I wanted to show up on the board after the kid says okay. The easiest way that I know to do that is because two sprites are interacting with each other, is to go down to this broadcast and say broadcast message 1. So once the kid finishes saying okay, then it's going to send out message 1. And for this sprite over here, I can say when I receive message 1, I'm going to show myself. Just kidding. It's not letting me drag things in. Oh, now I'm dragging too many in. Okay, we got this. Whenever I bring in show, I also want to bring in hide. So we're going to switch to costume 1, which was the first one, show, and then we're just going to go through the different costumes. This is going to make the letters appear one by one. But the thing is, the costume changes happen so quickly, you're not going to be able to see them. So let me show you that. And actually, I'm off script, so I'm a little bit weird right now, but I hope that's not a problem. So I don't want my name to be on the board when the program starts, so I'm going to hide this sprite. So when I click the start button, that goes away. Write your name on the board. And then when I click on this guy, you see how it just immediately appeared? What needs to happen is I need to put in some wait blocks so it looks like some time passes between there. 1 second is too long, but let's do 0.2, maybe even 0.1. Okay. No, I didn't do that right. Start over. Write your name on the board. Okay. So that's a really simple, goofy example, but you can absolutely start your students off with something and then let them copy and complete the program in some way that they choose. So that can be a really cool way to show off your students' creativity. Personally, I like having coding happening in pairs or small groups, because that's really how coding is done in real life. If you have a company that's making a product, they're going to have some people who are focused on making the graphics for it. There's some people who are going to be focused on writing the code. There's some people who are going to be focused on debugging, on making sure that that code works correctly, and trying out all the different things that a user might do to break it and seeing if it works. So I kind of like the idea of using CS first to get you started, to scaffold you and your students. And then as you all become more familiar with that, making your own programs that students can then alter and use, or having students make their own starter program that can then be altered and used by other students in the class. This doesn't have to be something where you're coming up with everything. You can have your students come up with some cool ideas and post those things. All right, we are really close to the end of our time. Are there other questions that people have, or other things you would like to see? You're mostly still here, which I'm shocked by, frankly. I'm glad that you found this valuable, at least valuable enough to stick around for. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Have a great day.